İyi günler, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the AYSBERG booth. I'm delighted to welcome you again for the next interview round of Tea&Talk. My name is Stefan Iskan'ın. I'm professor of supply chain management and e-business at the University of Applied Sciences Ludwigshafen am Rhein in Germany.
Okay.
I am the academic advisor of the AYSBERG Medya Grubu, which is Turkey's leading logistics and automotive media group with newspapers and media and press releases, etc.
All right.
My next guest is Mr. Serdar Ayırtman.
Yes.
Serdar Bey is CEO of the Catoni transport division. Welcome and hoş geldiniz.
Thank you very much.
Frankly speaking, in front of our preparation for the interview, I have a solid transportation and contract logistics background, so the Catoni group was not on my radar screen so far. What's happening?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much indeed for having me here today.
You're welcome.
I'm quite delighted actually to be part of this interview. This is really great. This is an excellent opportunity for us to talk about who we are, what we do, and the reason why we are not in your radar screen. There are some obvious reasons, obvious differences between ourselves with some well-known transport companies, because I've seen you actually interviewing some big names like Ekol, like Homsan, like all the other big companies. Well, predominantly our roots, our main heritage goes back to shipping. So we are primarily a shipping agents, representing the interest of some major global shipping companies over the decades.
In this context, I'm very impressed by your business card, the logo especially. Can you give us some background, because it's very, very nice.
Thank you. Well, that logo got together over 170 years. So therefore, each and every details of that logo has a certain history. So
it looks like a car brand.
It is, well, thank you, it is. Actually, the color of the green is the house and family color of beards. Mm-hmm. The black one is a Catoni, and they got together, and the ship actually on the logo also represents the shipping heritage as well. So there's indeed quite a heritage in our company.
Serdar Bey, today and yesterday already, we had a lot of different and very interesting personalities sitting here at your chair, for example, from Ekol, right, from Netlog Logistics. We had Turgut Erkeskin from Utikat, okay, for example. I would be interested, what is very special of your company? Okay. And in which markets are you represented, for example? Okay.
First of all, we are asset-light company. We are, like I said, our roots actually are coming from shipping. We are representing the interests of some global companies. We are not, we identify ourselves neither national nor global, but a regional operator. So we are identifying ourselves as a regional operator covering Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania, Georgia, and north of Iraq as well. And we have 2 liaison structures in Azerbaijan and Armenia as well. So we are talking about 7 different companies under the umbrella of Catoni Group, operating in 5 different countries with 2 additional countries with liaison structures. So this is the region where we operate.
If businessmen are interested to make and enhance their business in that mentioned markets, like Georgia, Romania, Bulgaria, right, along the Black Sea, what kind of recommendations do you have for them?
The biggest recommendation that I can think of from my experience in Catoni is that human resource would be the most important element. Obviously, we are a service industry, we are a service provider, and therefore we are heavily relying on the caliber and the quality of the human resource that we have within our organization. Human resource is the only asset we have, which we think is a very important one. So therefore, recruitment process and those indeed, integration process, because we're talking about those countries that are not necessarily very easy markets. No. They are challenging markets.
High fluctuation.
High fluctuations. And if you look at the history of those liberal economies, I mean, it's only not more than 15 years. So the thinking, the mentality, the general overall approach to business is somewhat a little different. So therefore, integration process, exporting your main company culture into these individuals are extremely important. So HR is priority for everybody who thinks operating in those markets.
When it's a priority, how do you secure knowledge and know-how due to the high fluctuation rates in that markets we have mentioned so far?
Well, like I said, we are predominantly shipping company, and we are very project-oriented as well.
And is it a standardized business?
It's very standardized business. We are representing some liner operators, including but not limited to NYK, Nile Dutch, China Shipping, used to be Hapag-Lloyd. So therefore, there are containers that we are actually monitoring on behalf of our principals, and we are providing some door-to-door services, some value-added services as well. So there's a certain standardization in our services indeed.
All right, let's make a shift from the internal processes to your business.
Right.
From your perspective, how does the Russian embargo affect your business among the Black Sea region?
Not much.
Do you see any effects?
Not really, not from our perspective. But of course, there was this heavy embargo, and there were some kind of consequences as well. And some suppliers in Turkey actually benefit from that as well. But from our own angle as Catoni, we haven't been affected actually at all, I must say.
How do you see all the investments put very strongly from the Turkish government into the infrastructure modernization? How do you see it from your perspective when it comes also to port operations?
Right. If we look at it, right now, the annual throughput of containers in Turkey is around somewhere between 8.5 to 9 million TEU. Right now, the port capacity in Turkey is around 12.5 million. So utilization ratio is around 65%. But if we take a look at the ambitious targets of Turkish government for 2023, we are talking about tripling the size of the economy. And
do you think it's realistic?
Not really. I mean, what I can say...
It's always good to have ambitious goals, right?
It's always good. If you aim high, even if you get closer to your ambitious aims, that's good for the country.
Yes. And for the people.
Indeed. So we're talking about a forecast of throughput around 32 million TEU from current 9 million. So this is a big jump. And Turkey obviously wants to be within top 10 countries in the world from its current ranking, which is 17th largest right now. So there are a lot of infrastructure that is required. And there are infrastructure investments that are happening right now. So I think after these elections and everything, I think there is a certain stability right now in Turkey. And that stability will bring some sustainable growth pattern like Turkey managed for the last 12 to 13 years. So I think we're talking about 7 to 8% investment ratio every year on year basis. And Turkey would be able to actually do quite well, if you ask me.
Let's focus a little bit again on the port operations. The TCDD ports, for example, they have all railway connection.
Right.
If we compare it with Central Europe, sometimes you get the impression that the utilization degree of the railway domestic traffic out and inbound related to the ports is not that used that heavily. What could be the reasons? What needs to be improved in that sector?
I'm afraid, and one of the most neglected area of the transport infrastructure in Turkey is railway. If we're talking about, I think there are 400 million tons of cargo moved in and out of Turkey. Only less than 5% is accommodated through the railway mode of transport. This is indeed unbelievable underestimation of the benefits of railway network. I think government actually will introduce some new regulations in terms of liberalization of it, and there will be more and more railway. But all these new investments for the new ports and terminals, I think they will actually also invest heavily for railway connections as well. Because Turkey is heavily relying on road infrastructures, but I think it's time actually to increase the portion of the railway, actually, I guess.
Serdar Bey, you already mentioned a lot the importance of HR.
Yes.
Now, at the end of our interview, let's have a comparison between Europe and Turkey. What is, from your point of view, a characteristic of businessmen in Turkey? What should Central European businessmen consider when they come to Turkey? what is specific for the market?
Actually,
having chai and tea and su and some sweets and do it 10 times before starting a relationship, or what is specific?
Actually, I think emotions are the most elementary part. If you look at it, Turkish independence war was based on emotions. So Turkish people are very emotional. Emotions are known to be not necessarily very good in business, but it works for Turkish businessmen.
Anyhow, it works well because you have also a controlling blood inside. It's emotion and in combination with controlling.
Indeed.
Compared to other markets where just you get the feeling that just the controllers rule the world.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, I think if you actually control the direction, if you actually identify the scope of that person that is about to be recruited in that company, the self-motivation, the ambitious targets will be achievable actually for a Turkish businessman, I guess.
From your point of view, what will the Turkish logistics market keep going on the next couple of years? What kind of topics?
If we take a look at the size of Turkish logistics market right now, I think we're talking about around 10% of the GDP. So Turkish GDP right now is $830 billion right now, making Turkey the 17th largest in the world and 6th largest in Europe. If we're talking about those ambitious targets set for 2023, they're talking about tripling the size of the Turkish economy to make it $2,400 billion, ranking Turkey to be somewhere within top 10. 10% of that will also triple the size of Turkish logistics business as well. So therefore, I think logistics will remain to be extremely important and will be the future industry for Turkish growth.
How will your Catoni transport division develop next year, and what are you promising and giving as an outlook to your customers?
Okay. We are proud of introducing a very brand new product for Turkish customers. And this product is done by one of our principals called Nile Dutch. And we would be able to offer some very robust products for delivering containers in West Africa. So Catoni will be one of the main service providers for the destinations in West Africa. That's one. Second of all, Catoni will continue to be very ambitious and will continue to be a rising star when it comes down to energy-related projects. Catoni actually is one of the pioneers and one of the leading service providers, especially for offshore drilling operations.
Just look to your connections to Georgia, for example.
Yes. Again, we are forecasting a lot of involvement in some big hydropower construction projects in the Caspian region. So therefore, yes, we are preparing ourselves as Catoni for those big projects in 2016.
Serdar, I would like to thank you for joining our Chai and Talk round today. It's the last day of the Logitrans exhibition this year in Istanbul.
Thank you.
With what kind of impressions do you go home to and start into this weekend?
Well, actually, I think the political arena of Turkey has been very busy. So there were lots of elections, one next to the other one. So therefore, I think now there is a certain clarity. Everybody knows the direction of Turkey right now. So there is a clear path. So the only way for Turkey is to grow. So therefore, the buzzword that I take away from this kind of exhibition is that stability and growth are the two main elements, not only for Catoni, but for Turkey as well, going forward.
Teşekkürler.
Thank you very much for having me.